Buckle up, Rosie, because I have a feeling you're going to be donating several $1,000,000 to the Donald J. Trump Presidential Library. Now, before I play this clip, let's just play a game. How many of these statements do you think President Trump could sue Rosie O'Donnell for?
One who called for an insurrection.
Yeah.
And then did not call the National Guard to come help people. And people died and got hurt. That is on him. And his assassination attempt, a man died during that assassination attempt.
Yeah.
A man died.
Yeah.
And it wasn't him.
Yeah.
And his ear miraculously healed. Ladies and gentlemen, will anyone in the news ever say that without couching it? Yeah. His ear miraculously regenerated. People, what else do you need?
One person standing in the way of us all figuring out why his name appears multiple times in the Epstein files. We still don't know why his name appears multiple times in the Epstein files.
We do know why,
Jim. Donald Trump.
We all know why.
Yeah.
You have to know why. Why else do you think he paid $1 billion to Jeffrey Epstein over the time of their friendship? $1 billion. He wrote in his birthday book, "Here's to all the secrets."
Wonderful secrets.
Yeah. If this was an Angela Lansbury murder she wrote, people would be, it's too obvious.
We figured it out.
So obvious that he is guilty as sin. And America, you know, before he brings more troops into Chicago and harasses brown-skinned people, before he breaks more of the Constitution apart, before he starts having people get killed, we have to do something, America.
Yeah.
And it's time for every person with a platform to speak out about it. Every single person, now or never. Break glass in time of emergency. It's time to break the glass.
And you saw, Rosie, what he did the other day when those brave women were up on Capitol Hill, the survivors, their families, they were all speaking out. At the same time, Donald Trump is saying it's a Democratic hoax.
How dare he, Jim?
Yeah. Yeah.
How dare he? For every child that was ever raped by a grown man, how dare he? How dare he? We are mighty. 1 in 3 girls suffers child sex abuse. 1 in 5 boys. Those are the statistics, America. Wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up. Our president is a serial pedophile rapist, and that's what he is. And in America, you're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to say what you think. That's what our country was founded on. Yeah. Come on.
Whew, okay. I mean, a few misconceptions there, Rosie. Yes, you're allowed to have an opinion. Yes, you do have free speech. However, there are also defamation and libel laws. If you knowingly say something that is false, if you knowingly put something false out there with a reckless disregard for the truth, and you're trying to slander and ruin someone's reputation, you open yourself up to a lawsuit. Don't forget that just recently, ABC News settled with President Trump. They agreed to give $15 million to Trump's presidential library in an attempt to settle this lawsuit. Basically, George Stephanopoulos reported on air that President Trump had been found civilly liable for raping writer E. Jean Carroll. Of course, that was not true. That was a falsehood. President Trump has never been accused for rape. So the fact that this has not only been in the public eye, but Trump has already sued over this, for Rosie O'Donnell to say that President Trump is not just a rapist, but a serial rapist. Oh, wait, no, it's even worse. She said he was a serial pedophile rapist. I would not be surprised if that caught the attention of President Trump, and there is a lawsuit coming down the pipeline. Now, another claim she made was that President Trump gave $1 billion to Jeffrey Epstein. Where is the proof for that? I've never seen that in any of the news articles. Is she just pulling this number out of you-know-where? The left can't have it both ways, too, right? The left likes to claim, oh, President Trump, he was inflating his wealth. Remember that was the case in New York where they said President Trump misrepresented his assets, right? They claim President Trump isn't as rich as he really is, and he's just manipulated his wealth. Yet, they want us to believe he has enough money. He really is a billionaire. He can just give away $1 billion to some random guy he really didn't know that well. Which is it, Democrats? Trump is broke, and he's gone bankrupt so many times, and he's misrepresenting his wealth? Or he has enough money to just give away $1 billion? Again, some things cannot be true at the same time. With all of that being said, I believe that those are the two statements most likely to land Rosie O'Donnell in hot water. But everything she said was ridiculous. I don't know if you caught it, but she really leaned in on this idea that President Trump faked his assassination attempt. That's why she was talking about his ear regenerating. We all know that the bullet grazed his ear, and as we found out last year, the ear is one of the parts of the body that bleeds the most, and it grazed the top of it. It's not as if it blew his ear off or his ear was like splintered. You know what I mean? And so what do you mean regenerated his ear? If you are grazed, of course your skin is going to grow back. But the worst part of that conspiracy theory is this unspoken implication that President Trump had an innocent man killed, Corey Compertor, just to make his fake assassination attempt look legitimate. How sick is that? Like, do you guys hear yourself when you spout out these nonsense conspiracy theories? And then obviously she was wrong on everything she said when it came to January 6th. President Trump never called for an insurrection. He, quote, called on people to march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol to make their voices heard. I've covered this on the channel many times before. He pleaded with Nancy Pelosi. He pleaded with Mayor Muriel Bowser to bring in the National Guard, and they both denied him. It was a huge crowd, and unfortunately, because of a lack of security, which President Trump wanted, it turned into a riot. It maybe could have been instigated by feds who were planted in the crowd. We don't know, but the evidence certainly suggests that this wasn't an organic riot. If it was an insurrection, where were the guns? Where were the plans? Why? Like, this, just on its surface, is common sense that it was, unfortunately, an unruly crowd, an unruly riot, and it could have been contained with proper security, and we don't even know what role the feds played in potentially instigating and riling up the crowd. And on top of all of that, the disturbing part was that Jim Acosta didn't push back on any of her lies or falsehoods at all. Now, there is some good news when it comes to the media landscape. CBS appears to slowly be learning their lesson. You'd think that they'd attempt to learn a little faster, given all of the lawsuits and settlements that have happened earlier this year. But they were in hot water recently for editing a part of Kristi Noem's interview. Take a look.
And the one thing that we will continue to do is to make sure that he doesn't walk free in the United States of America. This individual was a known human smuggler, a MS-13 gang member, an individual who was a wife beater, and someone who was so perverted that he solicited nude photos from minors. And even his fellow human traffickers told him to knock it off. He was so sick in what he was doing and how he was treating small children. So he needs to never be in the United States of America, and our administration is making sure we're doing all that we can to bring him to justice.
Obviously, she was talking about Abrego Garcia there. Well, CBS released this statement earlier today. In response to audience feedback over the past week, we have implemented a new policy for greater transparency in our interviews. Face the Nation will now only broadcast live or live-to-tape interviews subject to national security or legal restrictions. This extra measure means the television audience will see the full, unedited interview on CBS, and we will continue our practice of posting full transcripts and the unedited video online. It's about time we got that in the political space. Sorry for the cat quake there. Now, look, if it's like celebrity interviews, I totally understand editing for time or maybe editing for context. I get these programs can't run, they typically run either in an hour long or a half hour long, so they try to fit in as much as they can. But given the obvious bias over the last few years and the loss of trust that people have in these organizations, I think that this is a great step forward. And especially when it comes to politics, play it even-handedly, right? Not only, forget about editing, just even when it comes to asking questions, they always ask the Democrats the softball questions and Republicans get the tough questions, or they get the follow-ups, or they get fact-checked in real time and they have to respond on their feet. It just really is a double standard. And I think that this is a right move in the right direction. Well, going back to Rosie O'Donnell, she did issue an apology. No, not about the video earlier, but a different one. But before we get to that, again, I would like to acknowledge Shine On 83 and Kelly Odell Osprey. These are members of today's Governor's Club. The Governor's Club, of course, are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I am so glad that you enjoy. Well, after the horrific shooting at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, Rosie O'Donnell went out there and basically claimed that the shooter was MAGA. He was a straight white man. He supported President Trump. He was a white supremacist. Of course, Rosie O'Donnell was wrong about all of that. I will always give credit where credit is due, and she actually put out an apology video apologizing for that. So that raises the question, Rosie O'Donnell said a ton of stuff that was inaccurate, wrong, and just flat out malicious in her interview with Jim Acosta. Is she going to issue a similar apology video? I doubt it, but you never know. Let's take a look at this one.
Hi, everybody. It's Rosie O'Donnell, star of the Flintstones. Listen, I have a cold sore. I know. Happens. Get run down, you know. Anyway, I know a lot of you were very upset about the video I made before I went away for a few days. I didn't go online and haven't seen them till today. But you are right. I did not do my due diligence before I made that emotional statement. And I said things about the shooter that were incorrect. I assumed, like most shooters, they followed a standard MO and had standard, feelings of NRA-loving kind of gun people. Anyway, the truth is, I messed up, and when you mess up, you fess up. I'm sorry. This is my apology video, and I hope it's enough.
As always, though, all of this is just my opinion and commentary. That is what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So that last clip leads to today's question of the day. Do you think Rosie O'Donnell will apologize for that Jim Acosta interview, similar to how she apologized for getting the details of the shooter wrong? Or do you think she's just going to ignore it and she's going to move on with her life in pride? Let me know your predictions down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.